And certainly we're not talking about beanbag tosses and bocce ball, although we do that sometimes too, but we have so many programs here that I never would have imagined working in a senior, before I worked in senior living.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Smart Aging Podcast brought to you by GoIcon. I'm Karina, your host, and this podcast is all about rethinking the aging experience and making it truly iconic. We bring you conversations with senior living leaders, industry innovators, and even iconic senior influencers to share bold, fresh ideas that keep communities just like yours happy, healthy, and thriving. Well, today I'm really excited because we are diving into a creative and motivating approach to resident engagement, gamifying wellness. Our guest is Sue Dukes, Director of Wellness Services at Fleet Landing, where she leads the innovative Well-Inspired program. With a background in nutrition, fitness, and community wellness, Sue brings a thoughtful and energetic perspective to how wellness can be more than just a class on a calendar or a program. It can be fun, it can be personalized and measurable. We'll explore how Fleet Landing uses a point-based system to inspire participation, track progress, and create meaningful rewards that resonate with the residents across all levels of care. So Sue, thank you so much for coming on the Smart Aging Podcast. Welcome. We're excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Before we jump into the gamifying experience and the juicy stuff that everybody wants to know, I want to learn a little bit more about you and your background and sort of how you came to this position.
Sure. Well, I have been working in the nutrition field in the Jacksonville area for about 18 years now. And for a long time, I was working as a contractor sort of throughout the Jacksonville area. I would teach classes here at Fleet Landing. I also worked for another nonprofit working with military veterans. And I did some event planning in my past, which has proved to be beneficial here at Fleet Landing as well. But I've always really loved the engaging kind of one-on-one time that I have with people, residents, members, whomever it may be. And so the programs that we're able to offer here at Fleet Landing are no different. And we do a really nice job, I think, of engaging really in that sort of one-on-one personal experience with each other and with our residents.
So the Well-Inspired program is sort of an umbrella term, I think, that we can use as an example. Before we dive deeper into that, can you give me a brief introduction to what the Well-Inspired program is?
Absolutely. So the Well-Inspired, it's trademarked here at Fleet Landing, and it was trademarked in 2009. And it really just drives everything that we do here. It drives our culture, it drives our programs and services. It encompasses all of the dimensions of wellness. So here in the wellness department at Fleet Landing, we try to create programs that meet people's physical, social, intellectual, emotional, vocational, all of the dimensions of wellness. We sort of check all of those boxes with our programming. Of course, today we'll spend a lot of time talking about the physical, but we really strive to create programs that reach all of those needs that people have. This program was well underway before I started here, but it's certainly been something that we think about every single day. We talk about it every single day. We work on making programs just better, and sort of making sure that we have alignment between the dimensions of wellness within that Well-Inspired umbrella that our residents are really looking for. And so make sure we have enough of each one too.
I think that some people that are working within the senior living industry will think about the word gamify and think of, like beanbag toss or bocce ball or something like that. That's not what we're talking about today at all. So
not even close. Yes.
Let's talk more, let's jump into gamifying. What is gamifying, first of all?
So what we consider gamified wellness is that we're making it competitive, right? We have a really competitive by nature group of residents. Obviously, a lot of very successful residents that live here in Fleet Landing. And we work to kind of capitalize on that and make them want to sort of compete within themselves, of course, but then a little bit with each other. And it really just brings some fun to the fitness world, and it makes it just a little bit more engaging. And, we challenge them with new things. And certainly we're not talking about beanbag tosses and bocce ball, although we do that sometimes too, but we have so many programs here that I never would have imagined working in a senior, before I worked in senior living, to have, like a paddleboard club and,
Right.
so many different activities.
So when we talk about this gamifying your wellness program, how did it actually begin? How did this whole thing start? Like, what came up that we were like, we need to make this more competitive because that's the type of residents that we have right now?
Well, it all sort of started a little bit before I got here, and we started tracking residents. It was really kind of a two-sided approach. We wanted to see what our residents are doing, how they're staying active, and then also sort of create that competitive environment that so many of our residents really enjoy. But what we do now is we've really tried to expand this gamified system to include so many more programs and more activities that our residents will do to sort of broaden the scope of who participates. So it sort of started with this really fit group of residents and some of our younger residents. And then it grew from there. We have a lot of residents that, are maybe a little bit older, but are certainly still very fit and would participate. But the new approach that we have certainly incorporates everyone. So in all levels of fitness and all levels of care here on campus.
So a resident goes to a program, they attend the program, they actively participate. Then do they get points? Where does this point system come in? What are the benefits of a point system? Tell me a little bit about that.
So before a resident, we encourage a resident to come in. We have a kiosk in our fitness center, and we encourage our residents to, when they enter the gym, to come in and check into their program. So whether they're taking a group exercise class or having a personal training session, they can come in and click on which activity they did after they've logged in. So we have a login for each of our residents. And then we have recently expanded that to include some of our outdoor activities as well. And then we've also incorporated physical therapy in there so that we have just everything. Prior to this year, we had a point system for people who would participate in group exercise classes. They'd get 1 point per class. And then if they spent some time in the gym, and then we had outdoor activities, biking, walking, golfing, and croquet. I believe swimming was also there too. And so those we had to have a paper tracker. So people would collect a paper tracker every month. They could print one off of our website or from GoIcon, and then they would turn it into the fitness manager at the end of the month, and then we would manually enter those points. So recently, we've expanded the offerings that we have, and we've also been able to use this kiosk to incorporate more of these activities so that we have less dependency on the paper trackers. As you can imagine, from a staffing perspective, it's quite cumbersome to enter those numbers, add everything up, and then enter them in. And, heaven forbid we get a number wrong. But we've incorporated it recently. We've added, as I mentioned, we added physical therapy, which I'll dive into a little bit more in a little bit. But we've added the strength training, personal training, stretching, ping pong, Wii bowling, pickleball, paddleboarding, Tai Chi. We have dance, basketball. So basically anything that our residents have access to here on campus as one of our activities or as a way to be physically active, we've added that into this program as a way to gain points. So sort of generally speaking, they get 1 point per activity. There are a few things that we've certainly had some feedback from our residents. Things like biking, where it's a little easier to bike a mile than it is to walk a mile. So we have 3 miles of biking equals 1 point. And then swimming, it's much harder to swim a mile than it is to walk a mile. So it's about a half a mile is our swimming length where we get them a point. And then tricycles, we give credit for riding tricycles, which is something we offer on campus here. So we get 2 miles for tricycling is 1 point. So we have it all sort of written out for the residents, and it's in our database where we can track it. And then we have a couple of other things too. So residents can earn some bonus points. We offer fitness challenges every single month. And so if they participate in the fitness challenge, they can get some bonus points. If they attend a well-inspired learning series, one of our lecture series that we offer once a month, we include that in the bonus points. If they jump from one tier to the next, we give bonus points. So all sorts of ways where they can add their opportunity to earn more points.
See, I am very motivated
Yeah.
by competition as well.
Mhm.
And even if that competition is against myself, I think of Duolingo. I do
Mhm.
Spanish for Duolingo, and
Mhm.
I have a very large streak going right now. And there is no way that I'm
No
going to
way.
miss that streak. And
Mhm.
really, I'm just competing against myself. But
Mhm.
I'm not going to let myself down. And I feel like having a system like yours provides
Mhm.
more accountability,
Yeah,
and I would do it more if I had that accountability. This
absolutely. I mean, you
this
see so
past
many.
month,
Yep, go
sorry,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, every app that I think I have on my phone is like, my Kindle app is like, did you read today? Or you've been reading 5 days in a row. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can't forget to read tonight then. I think
Yeah,
all of the technology sort of has captured this competitive nature that so many of us have.
exactly. And even this past month, one of my friends and we're trying to get more active because we sit at computers all day long.
Mhm.
So we need to be more active. And so we started doing some workout videos from home. And so every day we would have to take a photo of ourselves, like with our video on the
Yes.
screen, and then send it to each other so that we knew that we did it. And it was a competition between her and I. And that's something that really worked for us. So it's
Yes.
interesting to hear about the residents and their competitiveness, and the way that they're reacting to this program that you have. But is it something that they're really looking forward to the rewards of it, or is it like intrinsic, or
Right.
what are they thinking about?
Well, your word of accountability is certainly something that, I'm not sure that everybody agrees that they're really competitive, but they appreciate the accountability of it. I think of it as competitive. That's sort of my nature. But the reward is a fabulous t-shirt, and
Amazing.
it is coveted here on campus. So actually, one of the challenges that we've had is in years past, as soon as the residents met a minimum threshold of points, they would earn their t-shirt. And this program is different because we want to engage them beyond those first few months. Some of them were achieving their t-shirt in January, and others never got it by the end of the year. And so what we're trying to do is um, get people to stay with it through October. We're having it as a 10-month program so we can sort of rest and reset and redo it all over again in January. But our hope, some of the challenges that we faced is like, well, I got my t-shirt in February last year. Why haven't I gotten it yet? And so that's been certainly a challenge that we faced in this new system, the way we're doing it now. But we're still keeping people engaged every time they log in to the kiosk. They're able to see how many points they have. So they see it right in front of them. The residents who turn in the paper trackers don't see it, but they can ask any one of us and we can access that information for them.
Have you seen an increase in your engagement or the participation amongst your residents?
So yes, what I'm not sure of yet is if we have had more residents participate or if it's just that we're offering more programs that count. So I'm really curious to see what that looks like at the end of the year. Did we actually capture more people? Our tracking is higher because we're tracking twice the amount of programming. So that would be kind of an obvious yes. Of course, we're tracking more, but I'm really curious to see if it, at the end of the year, if it shows up as more people participating or less. Any sort of new program, there's always an evaluation period or post-con at the end of it. So we'll certainly do that.
How do you think, or how do you ensure, I guess, that the system is inclusive for all of the residents that you have. I mean, we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about it was fitness and then it
Mhm.
branched out a little bit more. But what about some of your residents that may have some mobility issues
Mhm.
or some cognitive impairments? How are
Mhm.
you making sure that it's inclusive to the residents that you have on your campus?
Yeah, great question. So this is really the reason that we changed it. So we recognized that our previous fitness program was really great for a select group of people. But what we also realized was that we have about 800 residents here on campus,
Wow.
and we were serving a fraction of them who were obviously fit. And some of those residents are not net, they're the ones who are intrinsically motivated and might not need that extra push to participate. Others, we have a lot of people that come in and out of the center and our fitness programs who would not quite meet that threshold to receive the award. And we always felt like, but they're still working really hard, and
Yeah.
it is a t-shirt at the end of the day. So maybe we could expand this a little bit. And so the first thing we did was within the last 2 years, we've really increased our work with physical therapy. So we work really closely with PT to make sure that our residents who need physical therapy are getting the help that they need. And then when they're sort of graduating physical therapy, we transition them back into the fitness center. And so that relationship has worked really well. And there's a fly in here, sorry, wants to participate in the podcast. So just sort of that relationship that we have in our health services team with physical therapy has opened up our access to more residents that might not otherwise be able to participate in some of our classes and programs here. And so if a resident has graduated PT and they've come into the gym to have their sort of transition back into fitness session, then we can introduce them into our gaming system where they can then track their time that they come into the gym. And then the other part is that we've included physical therapy and stretching and other less intense exercises in this program. So when a resident has to sort of take a step back for healing and recovery, we're able to still foster that in this program and give them the points that they need. And then the way we categorize the points, um, it allows for people who don't quite meet a certain threshold to still have success and still have something to celebrate. For me, this with a long background in health and wellness and people who are on journeys of all different shapes and sizes, person who's just starting out in the fitness on their fitness journey, they should be celebrated too. So if their exercise is not quite, 6 days a week, 3 classes a day, we're still celebrating the work that they did. And so the fitness manager, Margaret, and I feel really strongly about this. And so that's why we changed the whole approach.
Is it something that when residents move in that they
Mhm.
are automatically included in this program, or is it something that you have to start in January, end in October,
Mhm.
like be accepted into the program? How does that all work?
So residents can join at any time, this gaming system. So we have the sort of points based on by month. So if a resident moves in today, we can have them come in for a fitness assessment and then a consultation with our fitness team. And we would enter them into our database and then they can start tracking their points. And so everything that they do from now moving forward would count towards their average. So if they start, June 1st, we would only count the average starting in June to the end of the year.
Right. I
Mhm.
was thinking of some of your residents that may join a little bit later and then see or hear about other people's points that they have and then be like,
Yeah.
I've got to go.
I want to go.
I'm going to
Well, and
beat you.
we think so many, again, back to this relationship we have with physical therapy, we see so many residents have an injury that, causes them to have a little bit of setback with their fitness. And so we think that their time in physical therapy should still be rewarded with regards to points, but also, making sure that we're still encouraging them to participate in one way or another, and they can still earn points and they can still be engaged in this program and earn that coveted t-shirt at the end of the year.
Do you have any really special stories that kind of stand out to you about this program at all, whether that be from residents or from staff members that you've worked with?
Yeah,
I'd love to
so
hear
there's
those.
two that come to mind. First is we have a resident who's very active, and she recently went on a big trip to Europe. She loved that she was able to track her fitness while she was in Europe and come back and give a paper copy of it to our fitness manager, who then entered everything in manually so she could still get the points that she received or that she earned. And so when you're in Europe traveling, you walk a lot. And so she was able to get a lot of points for that month. So just sort of being able to bring it on the road, the technologies, we're a little behind there on the technology for how we enter that. But what we don't want to do is say, well, because of technology, we can't enter it in. For us, it's worth it to do the manual work to enter it in for the residents so that they can celebrate that big win. And then we've had several residents this year with sort of physical setbacks. And I know one of them in particular, she lost quite a bit of her ability to be very fit. She was very physically active, and that sort of waned for her. And she was so grateful when she found out, because she was the ultimate tracker of everything. And she was so grateful when she found out that what she was able to do still counted. And, that's really all we're looking for. It's at the end of the day, it's about getting people moving and being active. And it's not all about who can lift the heaviest weights in the gym all day, every day, but who stays active despite setbacks. And we really try to foster that. So there's two amazing residents that have done a beautiful job with it despite the setbacks. There are probably 100 more, but those are the two that's really stand out to me.
The first thing that came to mind when you were talking about your resident going to Europe was, okay, so she comes back. Now you have to show us all of your pictures and we'll do a walking program
Yes.
while you're doing that, like we want to see it all, but then stay active and take us on a walking tour.
That's a great idea. We could do a workout class in our auditorium while she shows a slideshow for us.
Exactly.
She'll love that.
With some nice European music in the background, make you feel like you're right there.
Listen, we don't need any excuse to throw a party around here. So I think we're onto something.
Yes, absolutely. You should definitely do that.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the technology and using technology, and this particular resident that went to Europe did it all by paper. But let's go back to technology here. Are there any plans that you have to expand the technology or use AI? I guess those are two separate questions. First of all, let's talk about technology in your program. Are there any aspects that you're using technology right now, and where would you like to see the program go while using technology?
Right. Well, the answer to both technology and AI are yes. So, but with regards to technology, we are certainly using some technology. It can be better. We would like it to be better. We're exploring options to see what else is out there that we can better track. The challenge with technology is that the overwhelming majority of our residents are on board with utilizing technology for tracking fitness. So many of them have, their watches that track everything they do. They're tracking their eating on a food log. But we still have a lot of residents that are quite resistant to it. And so my fear is if we were to go completely to technology without any sort of a backup, that we would lose some residents. And so when the goal is to be inclusive of everyone, we can't just say, well, it's inclusive of everyone regarding your fitness, but not regarding your technology preferences. So we're trying to find a solution there. We don't have one yet, but we are always looking. So any way that we could track residents' fitness in the gym, outside of the gym, any sort of physical activity that they do. We'd also like, to expand this beyond fitness to see about tracking people for what programming they like with regards to the greater wellness programming. And so again, tracking for data, but not tracking to, have any other information, but just so we can do better programming and more of what people are really looking for. But yeah, I think there's certainly a setback. I'm not sure what happens in the future with that. I think it will get less and less, or become less and less of an issue. But we're sort of on the hunt for something that can do a nice job. Some of our residents have actually asked for an app where they can have an ability to sort of cheer each other on. There are several food logging apps that I've used in the past that they have like there's a social component to it where you can, it says, Karina logged 10 days in a row, and I can go in and say, great job, Karina, keep up the great work. And so some of our residents have asked for something like that. Not all. And so just kind of trying to find something that fits this large group of residents that we serve has been a challenge, but we'll find something eventually.
Or even challenging their peers, having
Oh
a
yeah.
small group
Mhm.
of friends.
Yeah. Hmm.
People like to beat their friends.
Yes. I know. So we've encouraged, like text threads. If there's a group of 10 of you who are really interested in this, start a text thread. And, when you're traveling, check in like you do with your friend when you're working out. Finding ways to stay engaged with your peers is a really, really effective way to stay accountable and to stay active in a program.
Sort of goes back to me taking the photos of my video
Hmm.
and sending them off to my
Yep.
friend, just like
Yep.
that.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
then what about AI? Because AI is becoming so incredibly popular. I mean, at
Hmm.
GoIcon, we now have our smart aging features,
Yep.
which are so many exciting things coming out in the next little while.
Hmm.
What about the Well Inspired program? What sort of AI are you planning on incorporating, if you are?
Hmm. Well, we're not sure yet. I think that there's no denying that AI is here and it's here to stay and it's going to change everything about what we do. I'm really curious to see, particularly with wellness programming, where it leads. I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know if I have an answer for that yet. But, we try to be really innovative here in this program. And I think we've proven that we are to our residents and to our peers, but we are always sort of looking to see how we can do our jobs better and be more efficient with our jobs. So I'm really curious to see, I think some of it could be with regards to our fitness assessments that we do. We do a fitness assessment with residents and it generates a report for them. And then we can compare that information from one year to the next. I'm really curious to see what AI can do there. So, I think with AI, there's an equal parts excited and equal parts terrified of what comes from AI. But I really think that with regards to wellness, we'll see some really interesting things coming in the next 3 to 5 years.
I completely agree
Yeah.
100%.
Hmm.
Uh, Looking ahead,
Hmm.
what's the plan for the Well Inspired program? What do you have up your sleeves that you are really excited about? Or what's something that you would love to do and you haven't planned it yet, but it's just an idea right now that you sort of would love to see happen in the future?
Yeah. Well, we have, with a really robust population of residents here on campus with such varying interest levels. We have, I think, almost 50 resident clubs here on campus. They're incredibly active. And I think, one of the things our wellness manager, Mary, and I talk about all the time is, how can we surprise them next? What can we do? We really try hard to keep them all on their toes. So some of the things that we have, we really like to see how we go with this fitness program this year and improve it for next year. One thing is that we never look at a program and think, okay, well, that's perfect. We'll continue that every single way for the rest of eternity. Every time it's what can we do better? After every large event, it's the same conversation. What did we do great? What did we need to improve upon? Even if it was a tremendous success of a party, there's always something that we can learn. But I'm really excited about, we've been trying to do more with the intellectual piece. So more sort of engaging programming that has to do with learning more vocational types of programming. The social things are really fun and relatively easy for us to put on. And then the fitness piece is kind of a plug and play with our beautiful amenities here on campus. So the intellectual piece is what I'm really excited about. We've also been doing a lot more with mindfulness here. So we have a labyrinth on campus. We have a very robust mindfulness program and mindfulness group. We've been offering some Tai Chi workshops. We just recently actually yesterday, had a Tai Chi for pickleball players class workshop that I think 28 people participated in, and they loved it. So how can we sort of take groups of residents that have a really a great passion for something like pickleball and get them to try something like Tai Chi that's completely opposite? And so we're just trying to see what else we can do. That flies back to get people to move across campus, to check different things out and try new activities. And so we'll see, but we're really excited. We've had some great success again with those workshops in particular. But how can we grow those mindfulness programming and that intellectual programming is really sort of my big next steps.
I think that mindfulness programming will become more and more popular
Oh
as
yeah.
different
Hmm.
age groups enter into senior living.
Hmm.
For example, like my parents at this time are
Hmm.
just sort of getting into mindfulness, and they're
Yes.
almost in their 70s right now. And so I can see it completely growing over
Oh yeah.
time. And it's so, so important.
Oh yeah, we've seen a shift on campus in the last couple of years to certainly much more interest in mindfulness. It's funny that you say that. My parents are in their 70s and that mindfulness is absolutely no interest in that. But maybe my mom a little bit more so than my dad. But a lot of our newer and younger residents are extremely interested, and but not exclusively. I mean, we certainly have a group of veteran residents who are sort of the champions behind mindfulness. And yeah, sort of what can we do next? Can we do sound baths in the pool? Can we, all kinds of programming that we have up our sleeves that we're working on. Trying to find it. We're trying to do a sound bath in our pool with a cellist, but we're having a hard time finding a cellist that will bring their cello into such a humid environment. So there's always a challenge, but we're always sort of thinking about what we can try next. And again, to keep them on their toes and surprise them.
Goat yoga is apparently very popular these days.
Yes. I think we actually have that on the books for the end of this year.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. I like
Hmm.
to think of senior living communities as if they were a resort.
Oh
If
my
you were to
gosh,
go
yeah.
to a resort, there's thousands of different programs for every single interest. And I feel like that's the same as living in a
Yeah.
community. We need to offer all of these things because we could be surprised with
Hmm.
the different programs that we offer, how many people are actually interested
Yeah.
or are maybe like a little curious,
Right.
and they just, the first time might not work out, but the second time might,
It might.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. We have we sort of coined that we're a cruise ship on land, right?
Love
So there's endless amounts of entertainment and amenities. Um, I have one of our residents that works very intently and closely on mindfulness programming. She always says that the best judge of how well a program will do is based on the attendance at the third session.
I completely agree to that.
And
Yeah.
so I've really added that into my sort of pillars of success in my brain, particularly with the newer programs that we do. Is how well people will try it, and then maybe because they missed it the first time around, they'll go the second time. But then, do they really want to? Do they want to keep going? And that's when you find out at the third session. So, again, with regards to the mindfulness programming, we have had outstanding success this year. So I'm really excited to see what comes from that in the next 12 months.
I also think that if you were to get residents that are really excited about it to go to the
Hmm.
first session, then the
Yes.
ones that were like, "Oh, that program sounds ridiculous,"
Right.
and then the residents that went there that are really excited come back and say, "That was amazing. You should try
Hmm.
that out." And then the word spreads that it was
Yep.
actually really, it was a cool experience
Yes.
and that other people need to go. So
I know.
all about who
Yes.
goes to that first one too.
I know. Yeah. Well, I haven't been sneaky enough to plant any real happy residents about these particular programs into these classes, but I might. That's a great idea.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Well, we're almost at time here, but I do want to end on a note of any last final words to talk about gamification. How can other communities incorporate even just a slight iota of gamification into the programming that they have already?
Yeah. I mean, I think, what we've learned and we continue to learn is that you have to listen to your residents. We have an idea in our minds of how a program works. And especially when you're trying anything brand new, is have a plan, of course. We all start a program with a plan, but be willing to pivot, if it's something isn't working or, have the ability to make a change. Um, the setback to that is if you have so many opinions, then you'll be changing constantly. But really, if you have a nice relationship with your residents where you hear them and you know them and they're comfortable to come to you and be like, listen, Sue, the numbers for the swimming is they're unattainable and they're not fair to the other programs in your point system. And we can sit there and say, you know what, you're right. I'm not an avid swimmer, but I can certainly understand where that's coming from. And so you can make changes. And I think if you have a relationship with your residents where they know that you're willing to pivot when needed and to make the program better, it takes the opinions and advice that you get from residents and coworkers. Um, it just makes it can always make that program better. The other thing is, it can't be one size fits all. We serve a group of a population that's ever changing, that's ever aging. And while our residents that are younger are coming in younger and fitter, we still have an aging population that's older too. And so making sure that our much older residents stay healthy and active, they're just as important to our newer residents. And then I think, having some sort of an award, the coveted t-shirt, it's a t-shirt. It's not overly expensive to implement in a budget. And it makes them so happy. So having a different color t-shirt every year so they can compare one year to the next. But sort of having some sort of an award or reward. We also, there's never too small of a thing to celebrate around here. So we never need an excuse to throw a party. We have a big plan to have a celebration at the end of the year. There's always some sort of like end of the season or end of the year event to celebrate their successes. So just again, listen to your residents, be willing to pivot, set a little bit of money aside in a budget for some sort of a reward, and then be willing to celebrate them all along the journey.
Amazing. This is a great place, I think, for us to end off on. Great tips to share with other communities and other professionals that are looking to implement gamification into their calendars. Sue, thank you so much for joining here on the Smart Aging podcast. It was so great to talk to you today.
You too. Thank you, Karina. I appreciate you.
Thank you. There we go.